You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WYPC.
WCYTV.
Here on the Daily Signal.
Good evening and welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC, whether you're joining us on one of our radio or TV affiliate partners on the live stream that I personally like the best over on youtube.com/Daily Signal or on podcast platforms. It's good to have you because boy, do we have a hefty amount of news for you this evening. Iran's regime has made money off of two things. Number one, oil. Lots and lots and lots and lots of oil. Number two, Iran has made a lot of money off of selling certain kinds of suicide-based drone and fighting equipment to other countries around the world with, let's just say, axes to grind. Lots of suicide drones to Russia, perhaps to China. They've done some kind of intermittent ballistic missile testing on behalf of China, we believe, based on some of the diplomatic and internal communications in the country. And then, of course, shipping some of the weapons they've produced around the world. Well, the manufacturing of that stuff is no longer in operation, and pretty soon, almost all of Iran's oil is about to be someone else's entirely. So we remember on Friday evening, we had a very kind user, Beth, who broke something that I had predicted at the beginning of the show. President Trump was going to order some kind of a strike on Kharg Island. Now, to refresh your stellar memory, Kharg Island, this little tiny piece of coral, and yes, is also a multiplayer map on Battlefield 3, for those who remember such things. But if you're not the video gaming type, on the southern portion of the island is a lot of oil infrastructure. In the northern portion of the island, you have a small airstrip. Let me rephrase that. You did have a small airstrip. And then, of course, some SAM batteries and a little bit of the itinerant housing for some of the workers who would come do off-duty shifts and didn't want to do the 15 nautical mile trek back and forth, or 15 regular mile trek. Now, if you zoom out, it is right here at the northern tip, right under Iran, of the Persian Gulf. And it is a hefty distance away from the Strait of Hormuz, but it is precisely the point where Iran does much, and in fact, to put it in the Spanish, mucho, of all of their oil exports. China sends everything that can hold oil to this particular point, and then they sail it out of there back to the mainland. And that is the primary exporter. Now, here's where things get a little more interesting. The president of the United States, who, again, we talked about moving a particular 2,500-ish group of expeditionary Marines on 3 craft towards the Strait of Hormuz as he bombed the crap, obliterated the defenses on Hormuz, is likely getting ready to take it. Now, there are other ways that Iran is going to lose all control of oil here pretty soon, at least as far as the regime is concerned anyway. Again, you've seen kind of the same approach with the United States and Venezuela just a couple of weeks ago. But now, according to Axios, President Trump is working to assemble a coalition of countries to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and hopes to announce it later this week, 4 sources tell Axios. Trump is also weighing a seizure of Iran's critical oil depot on Kharg Island, a move that would require, I like this, U.S. boots on the ground if tankers remain bottled up in the Persian Gulf, U.S. officials say. So the boots on the ground is the common trope, as though this is going to be some type of large-scale invasion, as was done in Iraq and Afghanistan. No, not necessarily at all. Again, more like the Venezuelan and Mediterranean administration of oil assets, things the U.S. has done quite a few times. But alas, this is a little something more here for you. The Central Command of the United States has released exciting footage of the Kharg Island defenses, which, let's face it, nobody really thought was going to stand up to much scrutiny. In fact, a kitten whisper could have probably knocked it over. But CENTCOM, with what appear to be long-distance barrages, probably from U.S. naval assets, perhaps a couple of bombers, although they don't really fit a strafing pattern, likely Tomahawk launches, though. You can see hitting some of the last of Iran's airplanes on the runway, several SAM sites. These are extremely precise strikes. This is considered one of the most particular and careful military operations when it comes to isolating distinctive targets. The number of civilian casualties inflicted by the opposing party has been, in this particular conflict, given the scale, pretty much an all-time low. We've never seen this level of surgical precision, but The IRGC, at least a source inside claiming to be a member of the IRGC, and Reuters claiming to authenticate it as a member of the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, said, quote, they strongly believe that if Iran loses control of the Strait of Hormuz, it will effectively lose the war. No money, no deal, to quote Watto from The Phantom Menace. How is the Iranian regime, which again, all of the ATMs, all of the banking system, the internet is now down. We are getting more footage, more information out of Iran due to Starlink no longer being jammed. How are they going to maintain a hold on the population? Now, again, here's the president giving kind of a reiteration here. Then we're going to get into some of the extra oil options, because this isn't the only thing involved here, at least as far as Kharg Island and the Strait of Hormuz in and of itself.
And as you know, we attacked Kharg Island and knocked it literally, destroyed everything on the island except for the area where the oil is. I call it the pipes. We left the pipes. We didn't want to do that, but we will do that. We can do that on 5 minutes notice. It'll be over. But for purposes of someday rebuilding that country, I guess we did the right thing. But it may not stay that way. Just one simple word and the pipes will be gone too, but it'll take a long time to rebuild that.
Now, from this standpoint, I'm just going to let you in on a little bit of how I make my personal analysis. The president of the United States is almost certainly going to send a few guys in to control Kharg Island. Right now, if I were to hazard a guess, they are making as sure as you can possibly be sure that there are few ballistic missile capabilities that are able to launch any kind of a strike on Kharg Island after the United States gains access to and controls it. But hey, that is an important process of understanding the president of the United States and how he chooses to do things. Setting things up just so is one of Trump's military styles. Now that we've actually seen the president act in a few different military operational environments. Now, he was asked today, quite a bit. He was asked, let's say a hair more than a smidgen, whether or not he's going to assault Kharg Island. Every time the president has been asked, are you going to do something? He has responded the exact same way. Why would I tell you that? Why? Look at you, you dumb face. Why would I tell you and all of your people? And guess who else reads your paper? Also, everyone over there, tell you what I'm going to do. That would be extra stupid. Like Joe Biden running for office again, stupid. Here's the president of the United States responding today, again, in a way that makes a good amount of sense.
To use even a limited ground force to secure whatever nuclear material remains in Iran is part of that threat.
Yeah.
And secondly, have you made a decision?
You mean to go in and get it?
Yes, sir.
Why would I tell you a thing like that?
And secondly,
You know, I can't say to reporters, sir, will you attack Kharg Island? Will you occupy Kharg? They ask me these questions. And I don't want to be mean, but they're stupid questions. If any president answered those questions, they shouldn't be president.
Now, this has upset a lot of people in a very small faction of the right and a very large faction of the left. This really, really upsets people. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later because there's more news to dive into. But Iran has released an official response. Here's their response. It's exciting. It's bold. I believe it's from Abbas Aranji. I can't pronounce that name. Don't care. Here you go. It says, people, as you know, this island is one of the very important strategic targets for the Americans to occupy. And even damage the oil facilities It was so important that Trump mentioned it several times. Anyway, this guy goes on to say, well, they announced they've completely destroyed all of the defense industry on the island. And the entire video is built to point out that everything is fine, everything is safe, the island is safe, it's all a bunch of lies. His camera is pointed at the pier away from the island because you can still, based on satellite footage, see the smoking wrecks that indeed are from several of these huge points on the island. It's really, really, really incredible stuff to see. It's not something that a lot of people believed would be coming as soon as it is. I'm aware that for some reason my sound just got really, really, really low. We'll take a look at that here in a second. Radio crew, we're going to send you to the commercial anyway. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated, first on 93 WIBC. Very strange. I'm not sure why my microphone just decided to go very, very quiet. We'll fix that real quick here. Maybe closing a limiter off will do a little bit of good. That's much better. Sorry about that. Strange things indeed. Now, in the meantime, let's talk a little bit more about the alternative pipeline scenario. Believe me, there are a couple of things here that a lot of people haven't been paying attention to that are pretty relevant to the Brent oil price, basically the price of crude oil, the price you are going to face at the pump. These are two of the separate pipelines in the Middle East. The East-West pipeline by Saudi Arabia, and then the Habshan-Fujairah pipeline in the United Arab Emirates. Both are designed to do one thing specifically: cut out the Strait of Hormuz. Because the other Arab countries are really, really tired of Iran and China, because China's who they're selling the oil to, threatening to cut off 20% of the global oil supply whenever it is that they want, whenever they want to, and they're tired of it. So Saudi Arabia has really thrown all of its industrial resources into constructing this east-west pipeline from Upheld all the way over to Yanbu. Now, so far, the Iranians have not attempted to hit the east-west pipeline because Saudi Arabia has the biggest military. To be clear, if the Iranians started trying to hit the Saudi Arabian east-west pipeline, I don't think that'd end very well for them. Similarly, the Yemeni Houthis have also tried to close out the Red Sea for oil shipping. They have also not attacked the east-west pipeline, although for them it's kind of more of a range and accuracy issue. Now, as far as the other pipeline, the Habshan-Fujairah pipeline, well, Iran is attempting to strike that because the United Arab Emirates doesn't have a particularly robust military, and they've given Iran a little bit more leeway, trying to say, we're staying out of it, probably for this reason. Here you can see the footage of the smoke coming from one of the key refineries in Al Fujairah in the United Arab Emirates. This is from today. Iran is trying to strike the other Middle Eastern countries that don't want to use the Strait of Hormuz through the Persian Gulf anymore. They don't want to use that because the United States is going to open it up one way or another. And likely, by the way, if you're interested, after the United States controls Kharg Island, the U.S. will essentially control all of the oil in the Persian Gulf. And if you're interested in knowing why, well, I'll give you an economic reason. The price of crude oil is going to drop to about $60 a barrel. Pretty darn quick. Now, a couple of other things on this, because Trump has asked some of the countries that Iran is also shipping oil to, other countries that either buy through secondary or tertiary sources, or who benefit through trade in the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. He's asked them to pitch in and also consider opening things up in the Strait of Hormuz. Now, Germany, the United Kingdom, France, obviously Spain, have immediately come out and said, no thanks. We're not going to send any warships to the Middle East. We're not sending anyone to the Strait of Hormuz. China's response was a little bit more interesting. Italy said nothing at all. In fact, Prime Minister Meloni said nothing at all. Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini said sending ships would mean entering the war, and Italy's trying to be neutral, which is, there's a historical joke in there. Spain's defense minister, Margarita, I'm not joking, that is her name, Margarita Robles said absolutely not. I don't think anyone was really looking for Spain, to be fair. Now, China essentially said that the United States, they weren't going to aid the United States in opening up the Strait of Hormuz, but they weren't going to do anything to try to hinder or halt it either. Again, the middle fingers which have come from China and from Russia to Iran from afar, where they stand with you, but essentially wave at Iran as it dips beneath the water. Of course, I'm talking about Iran's third navy dipping beneath the water. Yeah. Now, India has responded positively and has sent a few ships. We'll talk about that. We got to bring the radio crew back in commercial, and then we got to talk Cuba. Oh boy. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. So much news. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast. on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. Now, India has sent a few warships that will honestly provide at least some intermediary support, both to India-flagged tankers traveling through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, I'm asking for your pardon here. I don't have an English phonetic name for the Hindi name of this warship escorting India-flagged tankers. I believe it's maybe the Shivalikh is the name of the tanker. I do not know the name of the warship itself. But the Indian Navy has sent in a couple of both official Navy and then merchant marine naval ships to provide essentially back cover that allows the United States to act in greater operation in the Persian Gulf. Now, I've said this before. This will be a little bit of analysis before we move on to Cuba. It is true that opening the Strait of Hormuz is going to take two to tango. This, while likely to destabilize the regime and give the United States a foothold to probably flipping the entire economy of both the region and the United States on its heel, the United States is very likely to use this as an opportunity to strengthen diplomatic ties with India itself against China. Now, that's juxtaposed with something regarding some visa and foreign policy here at home regarding commercial driver's licenses, which is also an excellent move by the Trump administration, but all things in moderation and balance. Here's the President of the United States, though, saying, regarding the Strait of Hormuz, it takes two to tango.
Of Hormuz.
Well, we could, but it takes two to tango. We have to get people to take their billion-dollar ship and drive it up. If when Pepe has his big sugar ships coming around and they cost $1 billion.
Something that I enjoy from the President of the United States as a former teacher, I speak in analogies. You've probably noticed this by now. I do enjoy when the President goes, you take, for example, Pepe, a guy named Pepe. He's like, I got this sugar cane, I got to move it. What are you going to do? You're going to say, screw off, Pepe. It's great.
And we say, I think it's okay now, Pepe. Take your ship, drive it through the Strait of Hormuz. He may say, let me wait a little while, because it takes ship owners, and these ships are very expensive. They can cost up to $2 billion.
Now, the President of the United States also has a couple of ensuing negotiations on the diplomacy side of this. And this is where the European Union is coming to do some of the backfill. And we'll have to talk about this later, so I'll just give you a short overview of that right here. The European Union has slapped sanctions on both Chinese and Iranian entities on a list of things, all the way from media policy to cyber attacks, really starting to squeeze out a lot of the secondary economic opportunities. For example, BRICS, the Brazilian, Russian, Chinese, Indian, probably not really Iranian, Chinese counterweight, again, supposedly to the United States. It's not really holding together. Again, see the India news from a couple of minutes ago. Now, this brings us over to the diplomacy. So Steve Witkoff has again reportedly engaged in diplomacy with the Iranian foreign minister, but that was cut off yesterday after the entire country started laughing. News essentially breaking that the new supreme leader of Iran, Mojtaba Khomeini, whom still no one has seen, and we didn't know necessarily why at first, but Ayatollah al-Khomeini did not want his son to replace him in power, said maybe he's not competent enough in his will. Well, now we know the actual reason is because he's gay. Because Mojtaba Khomeini is, according to multiple intelligence sources to the White House, a rather homosexual individual. And it turns out that when you are the fruitiest supreme leader of the loom, that when you are more likely to be from the crane instead of driving the crane, as they do in Iran, I don't think this is going to go very well. There's a lot of expectation right now that one of the foreign ministers or a second in command for the IRGC, who is also injured, might be running the show. But it's I got to tell you, there's no way that this, they really are between a rock and a hard place here. There's no place they can go. I doubt that they're really going to be able to bolster. Again, the IRGC held guns to the Council of Experts and forced them to appoint, or pseudo-elect, Anschluss style, the next supreme leader of Iran is Mojtaba Khamenei, who, unlike, a lot of the regime, instead of humping goats, I guess it's more dudes, to each their own. So that said, we're going to move on to Cuba, because right now in the Cuban communist regime, things are really, really rough. And when I mean things are really, really, really rough, the entire country is currently without power, all of it gone.
And breaking news into CNN, Cuba's electrical grid has suffered a complete and total collapse. This is according to the country's power operator. It's the first nationwide blackout since the U.S. effectively shut off the flow of oil to Cuba.
Wait a minute, do you mean that the United States can utilize oil and both soft and hard diplomacy? The soft diplomacy of the carrot, the strong diplomacy of peace through strength, the stick, Huh? I mean, yeah, it seems like it works. And now you have Cuba. Again, you have their presidente, discount not Castro, who is currently terrified. Why is he terrified? Well, first of all, the country has no oil. The United States took care of that with Venezuela. Number two, breaking news, communism doesn't freaking work. And they have lost the general support of the people. Now, before we get to President Trump's comments today, which have a lot of people losing their McMarbles, there is a couple of clips we have from over the weekend of Cuba in open revolt, of course, open protests. Again, when you promise everyone in your country that glorious revolution will bring you all of the wonders and joys of fully automated communism, and then you just screw yourselves over, and you can't, again, rely on being propped up by larger powers, doesn't really go so well. And then, of course, when you have your dissidents who are burning local communist centers, I mean, hey, I don't really think that particular regime, whose super extra, shock troop de jour was completely wiped out by Delta Force protecting Maduro, I really don't think they're going to hold on to their country through this. Now, the president of the United States today, here's the comment that got a lot of airtime. Maybe I'll take it. Maybe I won't take. I mean, just the Teddy Roosevelt in my heart just yelled bully.
When will the United States do it? I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. That'd be good. That's a big honor.
Taking Cuba.
Taking Cuba.
You're Peter Ducey. Taking Cuba, Mr. President. Mr.
Some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it. You want to?
With a box, on some rocks, in a train, on a plane, I'll take Cuba just the same. Come on. Do you realize how many presidents through the Cold War were waiting for this very moment? The ghosts from Eisenhower through Nixon. Even JFK privately expressed his grief and outrage over the United States not doing more to essentially not enter into the blundered failure of the Bay of Pigs, which if the United States would have just put its air force over Cuba, which again, as a reminder, the communists did consistently in countries close to them, well, then we wouldn't be in this particular situation today. As President of the United States, Trump has said consistently, other presidents, all the way from Obama to Bush to Bill Clinton, have said they were going to do things, and the man actually does it. The man actually does it. Radio crew, we're going to send you over to the commercial. We're going to talk about this here just for a bit more, and then we'll swing you guys back. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. Again, if you watch the show live, we don't do a lot of the commercial break and stuff. No, we just keep going here. So, in the meantime, I told you the President of the United States said, a lot of other presidents have said they were going to do it, but I'm the guy who actually did it. They wish they were me. This is the President today. Here you go.
And yet every president knew. I've spoken to a certain president, who I like, actually, a past president, former president. He said, I wish I did it. I wish I did. But they didn't do it.
Now, this means that this is either George W., Captain Mission Accomplished himself, or Barack Obama. Now, believe it or not, I really wish that I could tell you that with all 100% certainty, it was George W. Bush. However, there's a non-zero chance it could be Barack Obama. A small chance, given just how much that man truly does despise some elements of his own party. But let's be real, it's probably George W. It turns out when you don't focus on all of the nation building and the friendships and the My Little Pony and whatever, you actually get effective military operations. This idea that we have to bow down before international law, it's not true. None of it.
I'm doing it, yeah.
Which president?
I can't tell you that. I don't want to embarrass him. It would be very bad for his career, even though he's got no career left. Go ahead, please.
You mentioned...
How about...
Come on. There are elements of that are just great. Just great. Now, the rest of the world at large has decided to be really stupid in the extreme. And when I mean really stupid to the extreme, I mean we now have Democrats coming out of the woodwork to say that actually, the United States going after the Iranian regime or the Cuban regime, or essentially exerting its will kind of on the broader stage, would actually be super duper duper bad, and more so. Actually, everyone else has it better off. The world is just full of sunshine and roses. Well, I mean, I guess Iran is about to have their first gay supreme leader. How wild is it that Iran has a gay supreme leader before we have a gay president? Pete Buttigieg just must be bent over crying right now. Anyway, the lies have come out in full force, saying that actually women around the world, in Cuba and in Iran, have more rights than they do here in the United States.
Our regime has secret police. They have secret police. Our regime is oppressing women, taking away abortion rights, taking away women's rights in like 26 states, some states where they're trying to have the death penalty for having an abortion. They also oppress women. They have the highest rate of women who are in STEM careers. We're kicking women out.
I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Iran and Cuba do not have high numbers of women in STEM careers. They absolutely do not. Source, dude, trust me. No. I love that they also, the United States is just as bad as Iran is. It's just as bad as Cuba.
Of the military, out of university, we're saying that DEI means women can't be hired for high positions in the sciences. So we're marginally better.
No, you're marginally retarded. All right, there's no evidence at all. But this is the line they're going with, because if Trump supports it, they're against it. This herein is yet again how Democrats squander all of their political momentum at all, any way, shape, or form, that they were enjoying at the beginning of the year. And it was a small amount. They have fully squandered it. And this has now resulted in even John Cornyn of Texas pimp-slapping Democrat representatives at the Austin airport. Because Democrats are still, even though some now, like Elisa Slotkin of Michigan, have joined John Fetterman in saying, yeah, let's open the Department of Homeland Security. Now, well, let's just say it's not going too well for the rest of the Dems. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. We got to bring the radio crew back. Don't go anywhere. More to cover.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. It is, in fact, a party, not really for the left, but hey, the poll numbers are changing, which I seem to remember some of us out here pointed this out, told you so. I'm part of a call on Wednesday morning and Friday morning with Scott Rasmussen and a couple of other media outlets and pollsters. It's a really cool call that I get to be a part of, that essentially breaks down why polling data is coming from certain sources, what the trends are, what Americans actually feeling, not just the stuff that you see cited on major media outlets later on, but it's a place where I have actually gotten a chance to ask a couple of key polling questions, which we've never asked this before. But if there's something that you want me to ask to be on an official poll, like one of the Rasmussen or the Napolitan Institute or one of the CNN or the Fox News polls, by all means, throw that in the chat. We would be glad to throw that into. Let us know you're asking a poll question instead of a mail time question. We do get a chance to actually put our finger directly on the pulse of what Americans are thinking. And right now, it's not looking good for the very small fringe of the party. This being the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, the Tucker Carlsons, the Alex Jones, the Nick Fuentes, and the list goes on and on and on, who say that actually all Republicans are super duper mad. They're outraged. They're betrayed. Here's former representative of Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene, lamenting this on a particular network.
Obviously, there are a lot of Trump supporters where you are. Are you hearing from them that they believe President Trump is doing this on behalf of Israel? Bring us there.
So for those who are listening and not watching, she is on CNN's State of the Union. That would be their Sunday show, kind of podcasting for those of an earlier time.
It's actually very split, and it's split along generational lines. Many of the older Americans from the baby boomer generation that watch Fox News all day long very much believe the talking points on Vince that fighting these wars is the right thing to do. But the younger generations, I'm Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z.
I love her, first of all. I love the idea that she's trying to suggest that Gen X is one of the younger generations. It's not. It's over the hump. Millennials are in the process of going over that hump. No, you're not. Gen Z and I Alpha is getting up to the age where they are starting to vote. No longer are we at the millennials and Gen X are the youths. It's not 2005. This ain't Green Day's Not Singing Holiday, honey.
Are very much against this war, and so when you talk to people on the ground, that's how it comes across. It's very generational.
Now, there's a great comment. In fact, Ron Levy, member of the YouTube channel, asks, who actually gives a flying F what Marjorie Taylor Greene has to say? Here's why. Because you are being told constantly, in fact, all of us, we're being told there's this big split in the right. You heard her at the beginning, big split. Everyone's against it. All you have are these old boomers who are old and dumb, and then all of the young, cool, smart kids, the brilliant youths, and they all hate it. That's not what the data shows. That's not what the data shows at all. So this comes out tomorrow morning. We get a little bit of early access here for you from the latest survey data. As far as the United States is concerned, 84% of Trump 2024 voters, the Republican Party, consider the military campaign against Iran successful. 55%, in fact, say very, very successful. In fact, polling data on the war in Iran, on military action in Venezuela and Cuba, has increased in American support over time. It has increased. Over the last couple of weeks, the favor of the President of the United States, the approval of this particular task, has climbed out of the 30s into the 40s, and it is continuing to climb. Because everything that the Marjorie Taylor Greenes promised we were going to have didn't happen at all. Didn't happen. And their stories keep changing as the day goes by because they are humiliating themselves. Now, again, we can get into some of that a little bit later. However, I do want to point out that this also has been a trend in the general congressional ballot. This is the stuff that, again, you're not actually being told. Here is the congressional ballot information. Now, this is by Clarity. This was done from the end of February through just a couple of days ago here. And you can see that where the Democrats were starting to really pull away from Republicans in this, again, 40 to 50, over 50 percentile range here. The graph is zoomed in, so the curves look a little bit more exciting here. Democrats were starting to pull away. They had some momentum in the generic congressional ballot. It was like, midterm is going to be a big blue wave, bloodbath. And I remember telling you, hey, just remember, everyone who gets cocky in midterms year, no matter whether it's the Republican or the Democrats, they are always sorry they were cocky. Right now, Democrats' chance, the general congressional ballot, is in free fall. They have lost 4 points in the last 4 weeks. Now, here's why this matters. Why am I telling you this right now? Because the Democrats, amid, again, multiple terror attacks, Islamic terror attacks here in the United States, amid insanely long lines at the TSA, at security checkpoints in every airport in the United States, every single one of them, people are waiting hours upon hours to simply go through security at the airport. This has now led to a couple of really interesting moments. So Senator John Cornyn of Texas, who's not super duper popular in Texas, he's in a heated runoff right now with Ken Paxton. Even he is enjoying a smackdown when Democrat Representative Greg Cesar comes up to him and starts yelling at him. And Cornyn points out, you're the reason everyone's waiting. Democrats are refusing to open the federal government. Here's what that looks like. Wait a second. I'm going to get the comments. Oh, haha, wrong clip for the Tony Kinnett cast. And now it's a show. Alas. A lot of clips to load. Greg Cesar and John Cornyn at the airport arguing.
Why don't you tell your Democrats to vote to pay these poor
Let's do it. Let's do it.
No,
Why don't
you do it. I've voted for it time and time again.
Let's talk for a second, Senator. No, there's a bipartisan bill to fund just the TSA. Can we do that together?
Not acceptable.
Not acceptable to fund just the TSA.
How about all the terrorist attacks like we see now on 6th Street? You want those to...
So for those who can't hear very well, allow me to tell you what's going on. Cesar is basically just whipping out the talking points, the index card talking points. Why are you doing this? Americans are against it. And Cesar's like, dude, the lines are really long. Why not just open the Department of Homeland Security? And then he says, well, why don't we just strip all of the funding and separate it? That'd be Cesar. Why don't we just make it all very, very, very different? And again, it is pointed out that has to go through the House and then come up through it. And Democrats keep poisoning the bill with different pieces of legislation, Cesar included. Meaning they're going to split the funding in the Department of Homeland Security so that TSA can get paid. And then that like ICE funding and Border Patrol funding is separate. But then also they'll sneak in a little thing that's like, hey, and also no one's allowed to build single family housing anymore ever. Or no one's allowed to build apartment buildings. And then the House doesn't vote in favor of it. Speaker Johnson was talking about that earlier this week. Now, another reason the Democrats are in a rather ugly tailspin is because they continue to engage in really stupid social stunts. Really stupid social stunts. So this is not just at the congressional level, it's at the local level as well. Colorado State Representative Kenny Nguyen, while leading the Pledge of Allegiance, did a little stunt refusing to say under God while reciting it to begin the day for the Colorado Capitol.
The House will come to order. Representative Nguyen will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, Nguyen, I'm sorry, I don't care.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for...
Stunning, brave. Wow, wow, good job. Americans don't care for that. They don't. They don't care for it. And it's not going to get any better when a lot of the claims that Republicans have been making turn out to come true. The latest of these examples is from Fox News, an investigation showing all that voter fraud that Republicans have been going on about for a while regarding the Save America Act. Well, it turns out in California, they might be paying homeless people to vote multiple times. Large rhinoceros Governor J.B. Pritzker from Illinois has never been so proud. Here's that Fox News investigation.
Investigating possible ballot fraud caught on camera after a viral video appears to show people in San Francisco being paid cash to sign campaign petitions with fake names. Senior national correspondent William Lajeunesse is reporting out of L.A. on that for us. Hi, William.
Hey, Sandra, you know, what I'm about to show you is one reason people don't trust the election system. Long line, mostly homeless, getting $5 to sign election petitions. Not only is that illegal, they're also being asked to commit fraud by impersonating other voters hundreds of miles away.
Now, you've been told, hey, that's just real small. There's only like a few people. In fact, I mean, it never happens. That's why we don't need to pass any voter ID registration or clearing the voter rolls so that people have to come out and vote again. As though if we clear the voter rolls, everyone's like the grandparents in Willy Wonka that are all bedridden and can't get out of bed to go register to vote. In which case I would ask, hey, why do you get to vote then? Radio crew, we're going to let you head to commercial. We're going to keep diving into this weird voter fraud case that totally wasn't a thing here on the Tony Kinnett cast. You guys take care in commercial.
Hey, what's the line for?
For sign a petition.
Shut up! Don't say nothing more.
They get $5 to sign a petition.
They get
You get $5 to sign a petition. Now that's interesting.
$5? $5. Okay.
So the guy who shot this says hundreds signed these petitions. No one reportedly asked for an ID, nor were they told what they were signing.
I get $5 too?
Yeah.
And what is it?
Just sign it.
Just sign it?
Yeah. You ready now? First name is going to be Carol. Last name.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Your first name is going to be this. Your last name is going to be this. That's super duper extra. All kinds of up and down illegal. Up and down illegal right there. So again, I'm amazed All of these things that we were told weren't happening, now, hey, they're happening. Even Zoran Mamdani has noted that people are fleeing New York City because of his administration doing, you guessed it, the same types of high tax policies that people do not like. They don't want to live there. He comes out in favor of individuals who are assaulting police officers, who are throwing IEDs. Insane nonsense from Zoran Mamdani. And while, again, taxes are continuing to climb, he's actually petitioning New York itself, which, Governor Kathy Hochul already said, I'm going to work with Zoran and try to get a lot of these things through, which we were told a little bit ago she wasn't. Now she absolutely is. Zoran Mamdani has now said, people are leaving because my policies are really, really bad, which I said they weren't gonna. So I have decided, you all are going to have to pay lots more money anyway.
Amidst being in the wealthiest city in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, we already see an exodus of working and middle-class New Yorkers. So I don't have a hesitation in asking those who make the most amount of money in the city or the most profits in the city to pay a little bit more so that everyone can actually stay in this city. It's also something not just about justice or the ability for working class people to live here. It is also actually about ensuring that corporations can continue to attract the top talent to this city.
Oh, no, that doesn't make any sense at all. Why would corporations who, again, employ a large number of people move to the city where they're getting taxed out of their mind? And then why would people stay to pay more taxes on all that? It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to you. Of course not. That's ridiculous. Gavin Newsom is trying the exact same thing in California. Gavin Newsom out here trying to tell everybody that actually Texas and Florida are super high tax states.
We have the most progressive tax rates in America. Texas, the most regressive. Texas taxes poor folks more than we tax our richest. The question for you is, who's the higher tax state? California or Texas? Who are you for? Are you just for the 1%? Or are you for the 99%?
See, there you go. It's all wrapped up into one. See, you're dumb. The people who are leaving are dumb, but we're for everybody because we're taking all of your money. Great. Good luck with that. We're going to bring the radio crew back from commercial one more time. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on The Daily Signal.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Now I've got good news, and I got annoying news. That's right. I've got good news and annoying news. First and foremost, a court decision today in which the First Circuit Court of Appeals slapped up a temporary stay. It was kind of a mixed decision, ruling that the Trump administration has the right to deport people from the United States, even if they don't want to go to that country. So there were a series of cases in a class action lawsuit that stated the United States could not deport them, illegal immigrants who had removal orders, to say a specific number of countries because that person didn't want to go there. And the First Circuit Court of Appeals today said, no, that's not a thing, and essentially put a temporary stay on it because there's nothing at all of merit on the idea that the Trump administration can't continue to deport people who illegally entered the United States. Now, there's another sizable win. Again, that case isn't over, so we can't, declare, ultimate supreme victory. No. There is, however, one very, very, very good thing out of the administration. According to the Washington Post, which brings me particular joy in knowing that one of theirs had to write this, some 200,000 immigrant truck drivers will begin to lose their commercial driver's licenses as they expire under a new Trump administration rule that takes effect Monday, that being today. Now, let me give you the skinny here. A lot of individuals who've come to the United States have been given commercial driver's licenses, particularly from states like California and Pennsylvania, often through major shell semi companies that hide out in those states, especially in California. Although now several states, including in Indiana, are under suspect because of their really poor operating practices that essentially they change the name of their business if they don't meet safety standards and then wait for essentially to be caught and told they have to undergo an organizational safety inspection. What happens? These individuals who can't read English, they can't speak English, a lot of laws in which a lot of jurisdictions, states, commonwealths where they don't have to take the driver's test in English. They get out on the roads and they're not paying attention, or they're high, or they're asleep, or they simply can't read, don't know the rules of the road or what you do when you see flashing lights, or that you can't turn around in the middle of the interstate like it's, New Delhi. And these individuals cause serious accidents and cause the lives of Americans. Now, aside from the Cato Institute libertarians who tell you that isn't happening and actually you should let them live here because they're cheap slave labor for my DoorDash order, the Trump administration is doing something that is very popular with Americans, very popular with American citizens. Roughly 200,000 immigrant truck drivers will, in fact, begin losing their commercial driver licenses. This rule bars asylum seekers, refugees, and recipients of Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, DACA recipients, from obtaining or renewing CDLs. And that's a good thing, by the way. Why are we importing large amounts of a low-cost labor position? It is, in fact, the necessity that produces invention. You want to ship larger amounts of freight faster across the United States, there needs to be necessity. Just saying, hey, we can just rely on slave labor is how the South fell behind the North in the early 1800s. Now, I do appreciate this because the Washington Post quotes Transportation Secretary Sean P. Duffy here. Quote, under the rule announced on February 11th, immigrants with a variety of temporary protections would no longer be able to obtain CDLs regardless of whether they are authorized to work in the United States. Quote, for far too long, America has allowed dangerous foreign drivers to abuse our truck licensing systems, wreaking havoc on our roadways. Correct. I didn't think that we were going to see this. Congress needs to codify this into law immediately, but they're not going to right now because we are dealing with the SAVE Act. We're busy dealing with the SAVE Act still. So as of right now, the United States Senate is preparing to vote on the Save America Act on Wednesday. And you may think, that's incredible. Wow, we're going to vote on it. No, it's with no talking filibuster. None. John Thune is just going to bring it up to the Senate. They're not going to vote for it. You're probably going to see all Republicans vote for it so they can say they voted for it, except probably Rand Paul because, Rand Paul. And then one of the most popular pieces of legislation in recent history is not going to pass. They could bring the talking filibuster, getting a vote of 51. We could see where Republicans are sitting on that vote. We could see which Republicans are willing to vote in favor of it. Nope. And then once it fails in the Senate, we're probably not going to hear from it again. Now, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson said that he's just going to keep sending it through the House of Representatives as long as it takes. You have members of the House of Representatives who have simply told the Senate, we're not going to do anything until we get the Save America Act passed. So John Thune has backed himself into this corner. This is an issue that the majority of Americans, the supermajority of Americans, I should even say the supermajority of Democrats, independents, and Republicans, which is something you never get to say. 2/3 of every single party, except for the Bernie Sanders Green Party. Anyway, all of the American main party voters are very much in favor of basic voter ID. The case in California is a great example of this. But again, we're just going to futz around and goof around. This is not the time. There's an opportunity for consistent momentum. And if we don't actually pull consistent momentum and instead we get bogged down in silly, goofy nonsense, then things aren't going to get done. And if we don't actually see legislation move forward, because again, you're seeing Democrats that are starting to flake on the Department of Homeland Security. Republicans voters, based on the polling so far, have firmly put the shutdown on the Democrats because they bragged about it openly. The Save America Act is an absolutely important piece of legislation, but if the Senate is obstinate, then there might be some type of a pressure point for the primaries. Who knows? You actually need to see a vote on the talking filibuster rules before you even get there. Now, that said, on the last end of this before we send the radio crew off and we get into some of the other news we get back to, for example, some of these sanctions on Iran and Iranian missile strikes in Abu Dhabi and some more information maybe that's coming in on Cuba and then also from South America. The Trump administration does not appear at this point in time to be making any amends towards the Senate campaign committees holding away the Save America Act. So you really could see gridlock in the Senate for several months. That's the decision of Democrats like Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski. That's going to have a substantial impact over on the polling side of things because there is legislation that needs to get through. And the media narrative that we need legislation to be moving through Congress at lightning speeds. No, Americans aren't thrilled seeing a new law passed every other day. But it is true on the other side of things that the United States really does seem to foolishly assert political power to large legislative or agency bodies and then complain when they don't do what they want, but not actually go vote and change. Radio crew, we're going to send you guys off to the evening. We're going to continue on the live stream. Take care. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. All right, now that we're done with the radio and TV side of the broadcast for the evening, get into a little bonus tonus. Here's why this particular thing is really not going to go well in the long term for kind of the argumentative online punditry class. There's a lot of people telling you the reason a lot of these senators are not getting voted out is because of a bunch of illegals that are voting in elections and stuff. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Voter fraud is not electing different Republican primary senators. It's the laziness in your state. And in my state. That's what it is. It's the laziness. Americans do have a coming out to care about elections in non-presidential elections problem. People don't care about primaries. And so those who simply get out a lot of friends and spend a lot of money on campaign ads can essentially walk through a primary based on name recognition. At some point, that is likely to change and reach a breaking point, but it's not here yet. So the next couple of months are going to be really, really interesting because if we actually reach a point where there has to be some type of a war powers resolution, we reach a point where the United States has to get through a particular piece of legislation on FEMA, on perhaps changing around some aspects of tax policy after this year's taxes. Well, if the Senate can't even get anything through the ledger because the House isn't willing to pass things, you're going to see a whole new kind of shutdown. All right, that said, on to some more of the news. So, there are a lot of online arguments that are currently suggesting that the United States is essentially bowing down to Israel and Netanyahu, and is Netanyahu even alive? That's not what Americans care about in the polling, even in the most to the left side of the aisle political polling that we have. Instead, here's some news that people care about. The European Union has slapped brand new solid fund sanctions on a series of target companies and individuals involved in hacking critical infrastructure, widespread device compromise, and disinformation, scam, and AI manipulation campaigns. What does this mean? Why does this matter to you? You are the people who are at the brunt of this kind of cyber attack. Scores of bots that are activated and that are then their IP addresses are spoofed, and then they swarm social media, and they create a festering garbage heap on the algorithm, which reacts to the large number of bots as a considerable amount of people that are now getting engaged with the topic, messing around your timeline. There is a reason that when you get onto Facebook, everything that you scroll through are all of these weird posts from pages that you never followed, from accounts saying things that a third grader could debunk. That is because of the foreign involvement of China and Iran. Left-leaning, center nonpartisan, and right-leaning groups have all confirmed that it is China and Iran who have used this as kind of one of their last desperate gasps to maintain control on kind of the foreign policy stage. So the Chinese-based entities that have been slapped with additional sanctions are the Integrity Technology Group from China, really nice name there. The Angsun Information Technology Group was sanctioned for providing hacking services aimed at critical infrastructure and essential state functions. Two of the company's co-founders were also individually sanctioned. The Angsun Information Technology Group is a Chinese group that hires out, or I should say leases out contractors at low price points on sites like the Black Hat World Forum. The Black Hat World Forum are where a lot of people, from Tucker Carlson to Candace Owens to Nick Fuentes, go to buy bots. You've always wondered how botting works. That's how you go. You go to the Black Hat World Forum, and then there are people offering to build the kinds of devices that the FBI and the CIA and the NSA, etc., end up seizing in New York City later on. A bunch of big, huge rack machines full of all of these tiny SD cards that spoof social media engagement and drive advertising revenue to those who are producing the kind of content that politically aligns with them. So Angsun Information Technology being sanctioned specifically and a warrant put out for one of the co-founders' arrest in Interpol also has an arrest warrant out in the United States. It's a pretty wild thing. As producer Josiah points out, there's this thing called dead internet theory. Dead internet theory is an idea that really kicked up among the latter millennials and rests quite at home in the Gen Z. It's a fun conspiracy theory that you're really the only person on the internet. Everyone else is fake. No one else is real but you. It's all a shell, the Matrix. Boy, it would have been really cool if at that moment the Daily Signal monitor behind me would have started playing the Matrix green code, but alas, I don't have that particular thing. Cool conspiracy theories aside, though, it is true that the Chinese and Iranian infrastructure being taken down mean it's going to be a pretty clean or a much cleaner internet. I mean, it's still going to be a festering garbage pit. I wouldn't say it's sanitary, but instead of being Walmart parking lots in February where it's big piles of dirty, nasty slush, it'll just be a regular dirty Walmart parking lot. On to the next piece of news. Because there's something about the French, but I don't care about the French and texting the Swedish people penis pictures. There are a couple of important bits of extra news that I wanted to hit you with on the backside of the show here. And just want to be precise on some of this news. According to Tucker Carlson, he has announced that he is about to be investigated and referred for criminal prosecution by the Central Intelligence Agency. Regardless of, or not, whether you think of Tucker Carlson, the accusation itself is pretty large. And I've gotten a lot of mail time questions about it in the last 24 hours. And so I do want to give it a little bit of time to breathe here and at least give you a bit of an idea of what his claims are. Here's Tucker.
So the other day I found out that the CIA is preparing some kind of criminal referral against me, a crime report.
Okay, so he says a criminal referral and then a crime report. Two different things. But alas, the allegation is that he's getting ready to get a criminal referral from the CIA. All right, just putting that out there, building from the ground up foundation stuff.
The Department of Justice on the basis of a supposed crime I committed. What's that crime? Well, talking to people in Iran before the war. They read my texts. So the crime under consideration apparently would be the Foreign Agent Act or something like that, acting as an agent of a foreign power. And I don't expect this to go anywhere. I'm not too worried about an actual criminal case against me for a...
Okay, but you said they're going to issue a criminal referral. So again, in millennial culture here, we talk about video hooks, the things you say at the very beginning of the video to get everyone locked in. He begins by saying the CIA is preparing a criminal referral against me. And then he's like, well, I don't expect this to go anywhere. I mean, I don't actually expect it to, actually come to anything, but...
Bunch of reasons. One, I'm not an agent of a foreign power. Unlike a lot of people commenting on U.S. politics and global affairs, I have only one loyalty, and that's the United States, and have never acted against it. Its interests are the only interests I care about because I'm from here and I have a lot of kids. So that's not a concern. I've also never taken money from anybody. Don't need it, don't want it, and that's provable.
Okay. So then he goes into this long explanation of why he didn't do it. There are two options here. I'll tell you what. I'll be really nice. We'll give him a third option. Option number one is that he is under investigation by the Central Intelligence Agency, and they're going to do a criminal referral, and they have reason to believe, again, given that the Director of National Intelligence is Tulsi Gabbard, there probably would need to be some pretty legitimate stuff on file that he did in order for the hammer, to be swung to be referred to the DOJ for criminal prosecution, because that's what a criminal referral is. So that's number one. Number two, he's lying, in which case, really weird. Why lie about this? We'll talk about that. Or number 3, and this is there is an adjacent media report that I have seen that doesn't cite anything directly that suggests that, well, he was texting people from the Iranian regime and they were just caught up in intelligence monitoring by the Central Intelligence Agency. So those are your 3 options. Now, if Tucker is just texting people in the foreign regime and is like, hey man, I really hate that you're going through this. Let's paint the worst, case here. I hate that you're going through this. I've talked to Trump. I said, hey Trump, don't invade Iran. Don't do any of this stuff. and there you go. That's what I have for you. Well, then there's nothing in that would suggest that Tucker's a foreign agent. Now, do I think that buddy texting those in foreign powers like that is a good thing? No. I'll level with you. There have been 2 different foreign agents that have reached out to gain at least access to me. One was from Qatar to invite me to an influencer summit that I immediately turned down. One was a request to visit a certain foreign ministry conference for Israel, which I also turned down. Now, regardless of those particular things, the Qatar thing was asking me for a specific thing. The other one was an invitation, but just in transparency, in the journalist broadcasting sphere, you often are asked various things and given invitations, and you do a little bit of communicating. I have some contacts in the State Department of Homeland Security, individuals that I talk to try to get an idea as to what's real, what's not, that kind of a thing. Of course, absolutely I do. I'm sure if you've watched the show at all, ever, you have noticed that I do in fact speak to individuals abroad who are part of several military contracting companies that I have friends in. But aside from that, Tucker just talking to people means that either number 1 or 3 could be true. Yeah, the CIA could be investigating it, but again, if he's just been talking to them saying, man, I really wish the United States wasn't doing this to you. I certainly don't want to do that. That's not treason. Now, maybe morally you find that kind of scummy because maybe that's a little rooting against the United States, but again, his prerogative. He is a citizen, even if I find the opinion, maybe, again, in what I am painting, in the speculation land, is abhorrent. Number 3, if the report that he was just texting Iranian leaders, whomever they may be, and the CIA was monitoring them, so of course they got his text along with whoever was texting the Iranian leader. Maybe Papa John's was sending out a mass text message saying, you know what would be halal? A new cheese pizza. They would get that text as well. Kind of a nothing burger. Now, number 2, the option is he's just lying about the whole thing. Options 2 and 3 are really, really gross. Here's why. Option number 2, if he's lying and no one is investigating him at all. Now, we've reached out to the federal government. Every news outlet from here to Saskatoon has reached out to the federal government. No one's told us anything. No one said a word so far. I don't know if he's lying or not. However, he did get out there and say, and I quote,
so the other day I found out that the CIA is preparing some kind of criminal referral against me.
His words. The other day I found out that the CIA that's the verb, is preparing some sort of criminal referral against me. He didn't go, so the other day I found out that I might be getting investigated by the Central Intelligence Agency. He didn't do that. He didn't say might. He didn't say allegedly. He didn't say could. He said is. So now, either he's telling the truth or he's a liar. There's no other option here. Now, if the CIA prepares a criminal referral to him, and he's just texting other foreign leaders and saying, "Man, I really wish the administration was friendlier to you," then that's not illegal. But if he is leaking things from the administration to foreign leaders, yeah, that would be treason. There have been some on the right-wing podcast sphere who have gotten very, very upset that people have said this. They have said, well, how could we be wasting time to it? How could we waste time? We have the left to fight. Why are we wasting our time on this? I don't care who you are. If you're leaking secrets of the U.S. government to foreign leaders, that is treason. Period. End. Full stop. That's the legal definition. If you are aiding or abetting a foreign power that we are considered an adversary to, that can be an economic adversary, that can be a military adversary, whatever. Now, according to Mark Caputo over at Axios, the administration has called this BS. I'm finding out that a top administration, again, that's what I'm saying. I don't necessarily have the details on that yet. I did want to tell you that is the administration official supposedly weighing in, again, unnamed source. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret here. I think that he's doing this for attention. Why would you say that? Because a couple of weeks ago he lied about him, and then he changed it to his producer, and then he changed it to nobody, and then he changed it to everybody being detained at Ben Gurion Airport. He lied about that. Then he lied. He turned around so Qatar had to then say that he was wrong. He said that Qatar and that Saudi Arabia have been arresting a bunch of Mossad agents running around trying to bomb things. And they were like, no, don't be retarded. So attention whoring people are going to do attention whoring things. Whether it's Tucker, whether it's Megyn Kelly talking about people's penises or whatever else. I don't have time for that. That's why, again, here on the show, we spend the majority of our coverage covering like the actual news in its place. We throw a little bit of mockery towards the stupid and the silly because, you know, it's good stuff. And we'll debunk a couple of theories. For example, there's a theory running around that he's admitted it. We're doing it for Israel. Netanyahu called and said, Trumpy, I need you to go to war with Iran. And they're the theories. We got him finally. And we'll debunk those. But mostly, we don't really get into this. Not because I don't have a strong opinion on them. You can clearly hear that I do. And I certainly don't hold those who are promoting them in a high amount of esteem. But my answer and defense, against them is scoreboard. I make predictions to you here on the show. Sometimes those predictions come true rather quickly, as we saw with the Kharg Island stuff from last show. Sometimes they don't pan out, which I'm very clear as to why I think that is, and I'm clear. But if I start giving you insane predictions that fail consistently, please go watch someone else, because it would be a better use of your time for sure. Now, let's get into this latest gotcha, and then we'll hop off of this and dive into some real news before we're done for the day. So various of the same Marjorie Taylor Greene-esque community are saying they finally have Trump. They finally got him. Trump said it himself on the video. He said, we're doing this all for Israel. I'm sure you're going to hear this on social media if you haven't already. So we'll play the video and, rip it to shreds.
Zero. We don't need oil. We have all the oil we need for ourselves. It's one of the great assets that we have. We have more than double what anybody else in terms of oil production. We're at more than double any other country. So we don't need it, but we did it. It's almost, you could say we did it out of habit, which is not a good thing to do. But we did it because we have some good allies there. We have some great Middle Eastern countries there, Israel there. So we did it for a lot of reasons.
Now, people are taking this and saying, see, there he goes. See, he said we did it all for Israel. And I'm not joking. You have people like Kurt Mills over at the American Conservative, who usually spends his time chewing his own elbows, and has suggested, literally has, quote, we did it out of habit, quote, which is not a great thing to do, quote, we did it, ... for Israel, quote. You don't have to manipulate stuff out of this. It's very, very clear what he was saying. He said, one of the reasons that we have continued to operate in the Strait of Hormuz, we have a lot of allies over there. The president of the United States tried to increase relations with Saudi Arabia and with Jordan and with Lebanon and Qatar and the UAE. Some of the countries he's increasing relations with, maybe I don't even prefer that he increased relations with them, but he's doing it. And so to say this is all some big Netanyahu conspiracy, don't be retarded. Nah, not worth your time. Absolutely not. Now, a few more things here before we end the show. Well, one particular, super excellent, may I say. The moderate Democrat movement here, your I say moderate, your Josh Shapiro, your Jared Polis out of Colorado, your sometimes ending in Y, not really, Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, who have pitched to voters that they are very moderate, and therefore you should like them and vote for them, appears to be falling apart in the United States. That narrative appears to be falling apart with voters. So in Colorado, in North Carolina, and this would be in regard to Roy Cooper, the previous governor of North Carolina, as well as with already Abigail Spanberger in Virginia, Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan. It appears that a lot of the approval polls and then also donations raised for these particular governors and campaigns getting into midterm season are falling under expectations. According to an internal DNC memo, the moderate pitch isn't working anymore. People don't believe it. Now, if Ken Martin over at the DNC from Minnesota has come to the conclusion that it ain't working with the moderate pitch, what do you think they are going to do? The answer is they are going to go all in as quickly as they can on the far radical. And it just so happens that the far radical includes defending fraud whenever they see it. This is the last thing that I wanted to share with you here on the news side today. The President of the United States is encouraging Vice President J.D. Vance as kind of the tackling fraud czar to just go ahead and go after Ilhan Omar already.
And what they've done is so sad. When you look at the Minnesota scam, a lot of it has to do with Somalia. Nobody's calling out anybody, but a lot of it has to do, but it's Somalia and plenty of others. And I believe the governor is complicit. I believe Ilhan Omar is complicit. I believe that your attorney general is complicit. And if they are, you're going to hopefully find out about it, and you're going to have to do what you have to do. If we found half of the fraud that's taking place in this country, and I think you have a chance of doing that, we would have much more than a balanced budget. That's the kind of numbers you're talking about. The theft is incredible. And I think JD will make, and Andrew will make a charge later on that local states should handle nursing homes and all of these things that the federal government shouldn't be involved in. It's too big.
This is correct, by the way. Your state should handle your benefits. I mean, of course, absolutely. The more people have to care about their own state's budget, the better the country will be. The more you care about your own county, your county commissioners matter far more than any other position in the country. I will die on this hill and erect a statue of me saying it. Your county commissioners matter far more to you in your life than anyone else in the country at any leadership position combined. The federal government should not be in charge of doling out massive amounts of nursing home aid to the rest of the country. That's ridiculous.
The federal government should handle military and a couple of other things. But when it comes to nursing homes, you saw where a young gentleman was going around and knocking on doors, and none of the nursing homes existed, none of the nurseries existed. The money that's being paid out, and the federal government pays for it. When you see all these people coming in illegally into our country, many criminals, many drug dealers, murderers, 11,888 murders, and you look at California, and more come in, and yet they never had money, and yet they pay them. You know why they pay them? Because the federal government is charged with paying. We're not paying them anymore, and I said that.
Now, the President of the United States also suggested that, Governor Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar are complicit in the Somali fraud scandal in Minnesota. I believe you're probably going to see some higher profile cases on that this year. But again, just to point out the new character in the room here, Andrew Ferguson making it clear, going after those who are hitting Americans directly with financial fraud. This is a good move for Republicans. It is. It's quiet. It's competent. It's to the point. It's not messing around. It's not podium Barbie stuff. Here's Andrew Ferguson.
Millions and millions of Americans pay into these programs every day, and they expect to get something out of it. And this fraud is just siphoning money that millions of Americans pay to fund their hospitals, to fund their daycare centers, into completely fake businesses. It isn't just unfair to all of us as taxpayers who pay for all this. It's particularly unfair to the Americans who need this the most and watch this money leave their hospital, leave their school system, and go out to fraud. And that is why this effort is so important. And I think we've just begun really looking at this, but I think that one of the things we're going to find is that in a lot of these agencies, the previous administration was pretty lax about existing anti-fraud controls, and we're going to expose that too.
Okay, then do it. Now's the part where you do the doing. That's what Americans are going to be looking for. I do want to get to 3 mail time questions this evening, and then we're going to probably wrap things up for the day. So to have a question for mail time, here's what you got to do. Every show's got to have a little, segment where you do a little viewer feedback and things like that. You can type those in the chat. The way to get your question to the top of the pile in our Discord channel, which there's a link to in the description. You can join that in the mail time section in that Discord, or you can head over to TonyKinnett.com and shoot us an email, I guess, if that's more your cup of tea. And that all said, I think we'll hop in. So the first question tonight is from Betsy Burns, good friend of the show, good fan for quite a while for us. She says, question, Tony, did Trump empty our reserve oil? No. We have not completely emptied the strategic reserve. I believe that we have not sunk even below the numbers that Trump got once he was back in office from Joe Biden. I don't believe that you're going to see a kind of an eternal major. Guys, it's been like just barely over 2 weeks here on the Iranian stuff. It's not that fast. We're not like emptying all things out. Those who tell you so are those kind of on social media that are trying super duper ultra desperately to get you everything on earth just to get you mad. They'll say whatever they need. So there's your answer there. Next question. This is from the King Doe. Do we know if anyone, or excuse me, sorry, not that question. Where do you think Iran stores the most ammunition right now? This is actually a really great question because in this particular instance, Iran's running out of caves to get in and out of. You can have like a cave, let's say, under a mountain, far under the mountain. The dwarves delved it out for you in the first stage, whatever. But you got to access it. Well, the problem is when you're going into random mountains, drones that have complete air superiority over you can see it. And it takes remarkably little rubble to completely screw up your digging operation. And guess what? If you send guys to dig out that particular tunnel entrance, the American military and other Air Force partners do in fact see that as well. Sorry, originally I thought the question was how do you think our ammunition stockpiles are doing right now? Every source that I have inside that is reporting on supplies continually arriving, stockpiles are fine. And when I mean fine, I mean there are a couple of ships that are at over 2/3 capacity in some of their, for example, their Tomahawk. They haven't even had to refuel yet, restock with a lot of their surface-to-surface rockets and missiles. So last question here. This is from Brian Smith. I might actually answer one more just to really put a burr under the saddle of producer Daniel. From Brian Smith, he said, hey, do you think that Japan will avoid this conflict and start buying oil from the United States? So the Japanese have started releasing oil from their petroleum reserve. I do think it is likely that the president of the United States utilizes this as a means to not only weaken China, but to strengthen Japan. I think that the president of the United States is going to, you've seen Secretary Chris Wright on energy come out quite a bit and talk about energy goals for the United States and expanding production. I think that Japan is going to be a pretty big part of that for future investment in the country. Selling oil directly to Japan is probably going to be a pretty significant part of it. I would say look out for something like that, maybe around May or June. End of Q2 is when you're probably going to see a couple of diplomatic deals that come in as kind of economic boosts. A lot of administrations do that kind of a thing. I will take one final one because I really admire just how grumpy it is. This is from a guy named Timothy C over on X. He says, hey, Tony, like your show. Thank you very much. He said, talking about polls, you don't mention who is taking money from who to conduct these polls. We'll get to that. He said, you also seem to just dismiss real people criticism of the administration. Can you be objective or just go along to get along? I don't have the mental capacity to go along to get along. Because if I change my mind, let's say, for example, that the Trump administration comes out and says, we're really confident the Supreme Court is going to rule this way. And I say, oh, yeah, that's true. And here's why the Supreme Court's going to rule this way. I agree. They're right. Here's how they're going to rule. And then the Supreme Court comes out and doesn't rule that way. Well, then I have to somehow come up with some kind of an excuse for why actually they were right even when they were wrong. Like 4D super curly Q amazing contortionist chess Candyland. I don't like doing that. For one thing, I have very aggressive ADHD. I don't have the memory space to remember the things I've shifted position on. So no, I'm and again, as one of the guys who criticized Kristi Noem when I was told by a lot of people in the party to shut up and be quiet, no, I'm more than happy to do that. Also, I do think that when people criticize things because they've just seen regurgitated social media posts, and they say, actually, Iran's winning the war, they've sunk all of our sailors, 150 Delta Force operators were wiped out in a failed raid. No, that's not real criticism. That's people being retarded and me expecting me to take them seriously. Or like, why are we doing this over in the Middle East? We have so many things to do here at home. To which the answer to that question is not, oh, gee, you're right. The answer to that question is the State Department, which is already revoking a lot of visas, and the Department of War. They don't mess with domestic policy. Domestic policy is governed by Congress and the agencies inside the country that are focused on the inside. Focusing on the Iran war does not affect Brooke Rollins and the policy that comes out, or the regulations and rules that come out of the USDA. It is, in fact, your congressmen and women who choose whether or not to pass bills. Monitoring the situation, sitting in front of a TV and just watching things ring out. No, they're not in like endless committee intelligence briefings. That's kind of silly. So there would be my answer there. And then also, as far as taking polls, I don't mention who is taking money from who to conduct these polls. I don't know what you're talking about, my man. A lot of pollsters do a lot of polling, just calling people over the phone. Paying people to take poll. You do realize you can just fake the data, right? Like when I submit a poll, I don't actually submit like, oh, hey, here are all of these signed, stamped, and ID verified pollsters. You can just say, I decide 58% said this and 42% said this. Trust me, I called all these people. You can just fake things. You don't have to pay to fake something like that. So as to the poll results in this case are fake, I mean, there's more of a chance on who they call. And then, of course, people who do the polling, again, the reason pollsters are weighted or graded is because they are known to call certain groups of people when they want certain things. Like when I want to hear about how great North Carolina is, I'm going to call producer Daniel. I'm not going to call producer Josiah because he's in Ohio, not North Carolina. See what I'm saying? It's not like a corruption money spending thing. This is what I'm talking about. Like not everything out there is a secret money corruption thing. Like the reason you got in an argument with your wife last week is not because somebody paid you to. Now, sometimes that happens. We've seen the corruption in Somalia and Minneapolis, but they already believed the same things beforehand. They just were fraudulent. And in California, they're doing it right out in the open. So as far as polling, I think sometimes that we kind of are looking for reasons and excuses to verify what it is we believe, rather than kind of thinking through things, because it's easier, it's lazier, and apathy is kind of a virtue of Americana these days. That all said, have a wonderful evening. We'll be back tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern time, same great place. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated, first on 93 WIBC. Take care.
ACC is a national grassroots advocacy organization dedicated to mobilizing young people in favor of pro-market, pro-innovation environmental ideas.
So we are in hundreds of communities across the country with tens of thousands of young conservative members.
I'm here because I am a conservative environmentalist. I think for a long time conservatives have not come to the table.
But what truly unites all of these young people is a shared belief that the ideas of freedom and free enterprise are the single best way to solve our environmental problems.
While there's still work to be done, there are Republicans who want to come to the table and engage on climate in good faith.
We are building the conservative environmental movement, but we're doing it by involving everybody.